Hello everyone and welcome to a new video of your Polyglot Academy. Now in this video, I'm going to continue the series on how to learn German up to a B1 level with 1,000 words. And today we're going to continue with lesson number 5, which includes the words from 401 to 500. So let's go. Now the first word for today is die Regel, which means the rule. Here's an example. Die Regel ist einfach. The rule is simple. The next word is regieren, which means to govern or to rule. Here's an example. Der König regiert das Land. The king governs the land. Next up, we have der Hinweis, which means notice or clue. Der Polizist fand einen Hinweis. The policeman found a clue. The next example is going to be die Stimme, which means voice. Ihre Stimme ist schön. Her voice is beautiful. Now we have die Energie, which means energy. Here's an example. Die Sonne gibt uns Energie. The sun gives us energy. Now we have die Jagd, which means the hunt, from the verb jagen to hunt. Die Jagd ist verboten. Hunting is forbidden. The next word is wahrscheinlich, which means probable or likely. Es ist wahrscheinlich, dass es regnet. It is probable that it will rain. Now we have das Bett, which means the bed. Here's an example. Das Kind schläft im Bett. The child sleeps in the bed. Next up we have der Bruder, which means brother. Mein Bruder ist älter als ich. My brother is older than me. Now we have das Ei, which means the egg. Das Huhn legt ein Ei. The chicken lays an egg. Die Fahrt, which means the ride or the trip. Here's an example. Die Fahrt dauerte 2 Stunden. The ride took 2 hours. Next up we have die Zelle, which means cell. Jede Pflanze hat eine Zelle. Every plant has a cell. Now we have glauben, which means to believe, a very important verb. Ich glaube dir. I believe you. Now we have vielleicht, which means perhaps or maybe, and here's an example with it. Vielleicht kommt morgen. Perhaps he will come tomorrow. Now we have plötzlich, which means sudden or suddenly. Plötzlich fing es an zu schneien. Suddenly it started snowing. Next up we have zählen, which means to count. Kannst du bis 10 zählen? Can you count to 10? Now we have der Platz, which means square or place. And here's an example. Wir treffen uns am Platz. We meet at the square. Now we have der Grund, which means reason or ground. Was ist der Grund dafür? What is the reason for that? Now we have die Dauer, which means length or duration. Die Dauer des Films ist 2 Stunden. The length of the movie is 2 hours. Now we have vertreten, which means to represent. Der Anwalt vertritt seinen Klienten. The lawyer represents his client. Now we have die Kunst, which means art. Kunst ist überall. Art is everywhere. Next up we have das Thema, which means subject or topic. Das Thema der Stunde ist interessant. The subject of the lesson is interesting. Now we have die Region, which means region. Die Region ist bekannt für Wein. The region is known for wine. Now we have die Größe, which means size. Welche Größe brauchst du? What size do you need? Now we have variieren, which means to vary. Die Preise variieren stark. The prices vary a lot. Now we have regeln, which means to settle or to regulate. Wir müssen das Problem regeln. We must settle the problem. Next up we have sprechen, which means to speak. Ich spreche Deutsch. I speak German. Now we have das Gewicht, which means weight. Das Gewicht des Pakets ist hoch. The weight of the package is high. Now we have allgemein, which means general. Das ist die allgemeine Meinung. That is the general opinion. Now we have das Eis, which means ice. Das Eis schmilzt. The ice is melting. Now we have der Kreis, which means circle. Malt einen Kreis. He draws a circle. Next up we have umfassen, which means to include or to comprise. Das Buch umfasst 10 Kapitel. The book includes 10 chapters. Now we have die Welle, which means the wave. Die Welle war sehr hoch. The wave was very high. Now we have das Herz, which means heart. Mein Herz schlägt schnell. My heart is beating fast. Next up, die Position, die position. Änderte seine Position im Spiel. He changed his position in the game. Now we have der Arm, which means arm. Mein linker Arm tut weh. My left arm hurts. Now we have breit, which means wide. Die Straße ist sehr breit. The street is very wide. Das Material, which means material. Welches Material ist das? What material is this? Der Wald, which means the forest. Wir wandern durch den Wald. We are hiking through the forest. Next up, sitzen, which means to sit. Kinder, bitte setzt euch und sitzt still. Children, please sit down and sit quiet. Next up, we have das Fenster, which means the window. Das Fenster ist offen. The window is open. Now we have der Speicher, which means store or memory. Mein Handy hat keinen Speicher mehr. My phone has no storage left. Der Sommer, which means summer. Der Sommer ist meine Lieblingsjahreszeit. Summer is my favorite season. Next up we have der Zug, which means train. Der Zug kommt pünktlich. The train arrives on time. Next up we have beweisen, which means to prove. Kannst du deine Theorie beweisen? Can you prove your theory? Now we have einsam, which means lone or lonely. And here's an example. Er fühlte sich einsam in der Stadt. He felt lonely in the city. Now we have das Bein, which means leg. And here's an example. Sie hat sich das Bein gebrochen. She broke her leg. Die Übung is the next word and it means exercise. Diese Übung ist einfach. This exercise is easy. Now we have die Wand, which means wall. An der Wand hängt ein Bild. There is a picture on the wall. Now we have wünschen, which means to wish. Ich wünsche dir viel Glück. I wish you good luck. Now we have der Himmel, which means either sky or heaven, depending on the context. Der Himmel ist heute blau. The sky is blue today. Now we have die Freude, which means joy. Here's an example. Sie fühlte große Freude über den Erfolg. She felt great joy about the success. Now we have der Winter, which means winter. Der Winter ist sehr kalt in Deutschland. Winter is very cold in Germany. Wild is the next word, which means wild. Im Zoo gibt es viele wilde Tiere. There are many wild animals in the zoo. Now we have das Instrument, which means instrument. Welches Instrument spielst du? Which instrument do you play? Das Glas, which means glass, is the next expression. Das Glas ist zerbrochen. The glass is broken. Now we have die Kuh, which means the cow. Die Kuh steht auf der Weide. The cow is standing in the meadow. Now we have das Zeichen, which would normally mean to draw, as in the verb Zeichen, but in this case it means sign. Dieses Zeichen bedeutet Stopp. This sign means stop. Now we have der Besuch, which means visit, from the verb besuchen, to visit. Wir bekommen morgen Besuch. We're getting a visit tomorrow. Now we have die Vergangenheit, which means past. Die Vergangenheit kann man nicht ändern. The past cannot be changed. Weich is the next word between soft. Dieses Kissen ist sehr weich. This pillow is very soft. Now we have der Spaß, which means fun. Wir hatten viel Spaß auf der Party. We had a lot of fun at the party. Now we have das Wetter, which means weather. Das Wetter ist heute schön. The weather is nice today. Next up we have der Monat, which means month. Ein Jahr hat 12 Monate. A year has 12 months. Next up we have glücklich, which means happy. Sie ist sehr glücklich mit ihrem neuen Job. She is very happy with her new job. Now we have hoffen, which means to hope. Ich hoffe auf gutes Wetter. I hope for good weather. Now we have die Blume, which means flower. Diese Blume riecht gut. This flower smells good. Now we have seltsam, which means strange. Das ist eine seltsame Geschichte. That is a strange story. Now we have der Handel, which means trade, from the verb handeln to trade. Der Handel zwischen den Ländern wächst. Trade between the countries is growing. Next up we have die Melodie, which means melody. Die Melodie des Liedes ist sehr schön. The melody of the song is very beautiful. Now we have das Büro, which means office. Mein Büro ist im 3. Stock. My office is on the 3rd floor. Now we have empfangen, which means to receive. Ich habe gestern einen Brief empfangen. I received the letter yesterday. Now we have der Mund, which means mouth. Er hat den Mund voller Schokolade. His mouth is full of chocolate. Now we have genau, which means exact. Das ist die genaue Adresse. That is the exact address. Following up we have sterben, which means to die. Niemand will jung sterben. Nobody wants to die young. Now we have außer, which means except. Alle außer Peter sind da. Everyone is here except Peter. Following up, word 477, der Ton, which means tone, clay or sound, but mostly tone. Sein Ton war sehr freundlich. His tone was very friendly. Now we have beitreten, which means to join. Ich möchte dem Verein beitreten. I want to join the club. Next up we have vorschlagen, which means to suggest, and here's an example. Er möchte einen neuen Plan vorschlagen. He wants to suggest a new plan. Now we have sauber, which means clean. Das Zimmer ist sauber, endlich. The room is clean, finally. Now we have die Pause, which means break. Wir machen eine kurze Pause. We are taking a short break. Next up we have die Dame, which means lady. Die alte Dame wohnt nebenan. The old lady lives next door. Now we have steigen, which means both to rise and to climb. Die Preise steigen jedes Jahr. Prices rise every year. Following up we have schlecht, which means bad. Das Essen schmeckt schlecht. The food tastes bad. Now we have das Blut, which means blood. Er verlor viel Blut. He lost a lot of blood. Following on we have berühren, which means to touch. Bitte nicht berühren. Please do not touch. Now we have mischen, which means to mix. Sie mischt die Farben. She mixes the colors. Now we have die Mannschaft, which means the team. Unsere Mannschaft hat gewonnen. Our team won. Now we have die Kosten, which means cost. Die Kosten sind zu hoch. The costs are too high. Now word 490 is going to be brown, which means brown. Sie trägt einen braunen Mantel. She's wearing a brown coat. Now we have der Garten, which means garden. Der Garten ist voller Blumen. The garden is full of flowers. Next up we have wählen, which means to choose or to vote. Du kannst ein Buch wählen. You can choose a book. Now we have passen, which means to fit. Die Schuhe passen nicht. The shoes don't fit. Fließen is the next word, which means to flow. Der Fluss fließt ins Meer. The river flows into the sea. Die Bank is the next word, which means both bank as the institution as well as bench. Das Geld liegt auf der Bank. The money is in the bank. Next up, sammeln, to collect, word 496. Er sammelt Briefmarken. He collects stamps. Now we have sparen, which means to save. Ich spare Geld für ein Fahrrad. I'm saving money for a bike. Now we have die Kontrolle, which means control or check. Die Kontrolle war streng, the control was strict. Now we have sonst, which means else or otherwise. Willst du sonst noch etwas? Do you want anything else? And now finally, the last word, word 500, der Fall, which means case or fall. Das ist ein schwieriger Fall. This is a difficult case. Now, thank you for listening to this lesson. Thank you for joining once again. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions or whatsoever, feel free to leave a comment. And other than that, continue the series. If you would like to learn German, check out my playlist. And other than that, thanks and have a nice day. See you soon. Goodbye.